Okay, so we are going to be reading at Abram and Lot separate, and we're just gonna see where it takes us. If you didn't see the last reading, we wrapped up the Tower of Babel, which I'm just gonna give a quick rundown on the Tower of Babel really quick. So the humans of the world come together to try to make their own kingdom, like a one world government, and they try to build a tower to the heavens, and they all have the same language, and God does not approve of this. So to punish them, he confused their languages, and he spread them upon the world, like separated them all. So that's why it's called Babel, because they couldn't understand each other. He changed all their languages. That's where we finished off in the last one. And also, again, before we start this, I recommend two things: that Hallow app, Bible in a year, and also to check out the daily meditations that I took you through all of Advent from November 27th to December 25th. I recommend that. Now let's start reading. So Abram went up from Egypt, and he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the Negev. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and gold. He journeyed on by stages from the Negev as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at the first. And there Abram called the name of the Lord. Now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them living together, for their positions were so great that they could not live together. So I'm gonna try to explain this. They were both, doing really well. They both had a lot of land. They both had a lot of livestock, but they had too much to live next to each other. They couldn't live with each other because they just had such massive, I guess you could call them companies in a way, such massive herds and livestock. And there was a strife between the herders of Abram's livestock and the herders of Lot's livestock. So I guess the workers were fighting with each other. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites lived in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herders and my herders, for we are kinder. It is not the whole land before you. Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if you take the right hand, I will go to the left." Lot looked about him, and saw that the plain of the Jordan was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. So Lot was like, conflict is rising between the two of us. I don't want that to happen. So you go wherever you want, and I will go to the opposite place. You go to the left, I go to the right. You go to the right, I go to the left. I don't want a problem. This just isn't working, and if we let this sit, it won't work. So, in the direction of Zoar, this was before the Lord had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Jordan, and Lot journeyed eastward. Thus they had separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the plain, and moved his tent as far as Sodom. So the people of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. So Lot moved his house to a place filled with sinners, which was Sodom. It was a land filled with sinners against the Lord. So the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, raise your eyes now, and look from the place where you are, northward and southward, and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if one can count on the dust of the earth, your offspring can also be counted. Rise up, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. So Abram moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron. And there he built an altar to the Lord. So Lot's captivity and rescue. So now, I've never read this before. My inference, what I'm thinking is going to happen is, Lot moved to Sodom, which was filled with, wicked people. They're gonna be like, oh snap, this guy's rich. And they captured him because of that. So, in the days of King Amraphel of Shinar, and King Arioch of Elazar, King Chedorlaomer of Elam, and King Tidal of Goim. These kings made war with King Berah of Sodom, which was where Lot moved, King Breshah of Gomorrah, and of Gomorrah, King Shinab of Adamah, King Shemebeber of Zebo, and the King Bela, which is Zoar. All of these joined forces in the valley of Siddim. That is the dead of the sea. 12 years they had served Chedorlaomer, but on the 12th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him came and subdued the Rephaim and Ashtirah, Karnaim. These words are a little confusing, but that's okay. And the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as Gilfaram, on the edge of the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En-Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and subsided all the country of the Amalekites. Also the Amorites who lived in Hazaron, the king of Sodom. Okay, a little confusing, but the king of Sodom. So, pretty much there's just a war. They rebelled, and that's pretty much where we are right now in this chapter. So, of King Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Abadad, and the king of Seobram, the king of Bela, that is Orad, went out and they joined the battle of the valley in Siddim with King Chedorlaomer, Elam, king of Elam, King Tidal of Goim, King Amraphel of Shinar, and King Arioch of Elasar. 4 kings against 5. So, 4 armies against 5. So 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of bitumen pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. Some fell into them, and the rest fled into the hill country. So the enemy took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who lived in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. So people are like fleeing the scene, taking stuff. Then one who had escaped and told Abram and the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Omorite brother of Eshcol, and the Anir. These were the allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his nephew had been taken captive, he led forth his trained men born in his house, 318 of them, 318 men, trained men born in his house, and went and pursued as far as Dan. He divided his forces against them by night, and his servants had routed them and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus, and he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his nephew Lot with his goods, and the women and the people. So, what that first section was saying was, so now we learn that Lot is actually Abram's nephew. That's interesting. So he went to go save his nephew and all of his goods. So he's like, he didn't want a problem with his nephew. He was like, listen, we both have tremendously large areas. We need to just, separate, divide. We can do this. And then he was like, listen, you took my nephew. He sent out his trained men. They went out as far. Like they all dispersed as far as down, they said, which I guess that's far from where they were. So they dispersed out looking for Lot, and then they brought him back. They're like, okay, here you are. We brought you back, and here's your goods, because he was taken, because it's literally called captivity and rescue. And then now we're going on to Abram, blessed by Melchizedek. Okay, so now let's read Abram blessed by Melchizedek. So, after his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Shava, that is the king's valley. And King Melchizedek of Salem brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High. He blessed him and said, blessed by Abram, by God's Most High, maker of the heaven and the earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. So, that was semi-wrong. He was not captured. He was captured by the other kings who were trying to come in and wage war against them. And then Abram wasn't having it, sent his men over, bada bing, bada boom. So it was not the king of Sodom who took him and wanted his money. It was other kings who took him and wanted his money. And Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have sworn to the Lord, God Most High, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread of a sandal thong or anything that is yours, so that you might not say, I have made Abram rich. I will take nothing but what the young men have eaten, and the share of the men who went with me, Anir, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their share. So that was saying, Abram was saying, I'm not going to take any of their stuff. I won't take a sandal thong, which, is like a shoe, like giving someone a shoelace. Like, he won't take the littlest of prizes because he made a promise to God to not take anything. So the king of Sodom can't be like, I made you rich, and then try to pull something. So he's like, I will not take anything from you. So, we're going to wrap the Abram story with God's covenant with Abram. So, after these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Oh, really quick, I want to say something. I am going to put up a picture of an angel right now. Now, the reason I wanted to put up that picture of that angel was because they, the art revolution, excuse me, they wanted to make angels seem really cutesy. They were heavily inspired by the Greek Cupid. But angels in the Bible, like you just saw that, they're not the most beautiful creatures. So that's why, because they look like that, maybe because they're glory is so magnificent that that's the only way that humans can see them. They have to open up with, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Alright, so do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. But Abram said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, You have given me no offspring, and so a slave born in my house is to be my heir. But the word of the Lord came to him, This man shall not be your heir. No one but your very own issue shall be your heir. He brought him outside and said, Look towards heaven and count the stars, if you are able to count them. Then he said to him, So shall your descendants be. And he believed the Lord, and the Lord reckoned it to him as righteousness. He then said to him, I am the Lord, who brought you from Ur to the Chaldeans, to give you this land to possess. But he said, O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? He said to him, Bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, the ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. He brought him all of these and cut them into two, laying each half over against the other. But he did not cut the birds in two. And when the birds of prey came down on the carcass, Abram drove them away. The sun was going down. A deep sleep fell upon Abram, and a deep terrifying darkness descended upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, Know this is for certain, that your offspring shall be aliens in a land that is not theirs, and shall be slaves there, and they shall be oppressed for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve. Afterward they shall come out with great possessions. And as for yourself, you shall go to all your ancestors in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the 4th generation. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. When the sun had gone down, and it was dark, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. And on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenzites, and the Kadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. So in there, God's covenant, or he was saying to Abram the truth, because God, knows what has happened, what is happening, what will happen at all times, because God is a perfect being who will not change. So he doesn't have emotions. He's not gonna hold a grudge against you. He is a all-loving, all-good, all-powerful being. And he was saying that you will have descendants and they will be enslaved for 400 years. But I will bring wrath upon that nation, and you shall be buried in a good old age. You will live your full life. You will live happily. And then your ancestors will come. They will be enslaved, but I will bring wrath upon that nation. So, what am I going to say to end off this reading? To end it off, I'm going to say a bit of advice that I came up, I thought of, and I thought, that's not too shabby. When you say God's name, to not say God's name in vain. In order to not say his name in vain, you should say his name followed by love and fear. Love and fear. Because God is a good, loving being who loves you, and you should love him, and you should love his name. But you should also fear him, which is, people are fearing God a lot less. You need to feared God. And that, his name should be followed with love and then fear. That's what I say. But thank you for listening. See you in the next one.